What's happening? Happy Monday to you and yours. Thanks for joining me as always. It is very much appreciated. Let's first start off with this. We'll get into the Patriots in a minute. Later on, we'll get into Kristaps Porzingis, but we do have some news this morning. All of those Justin Jefferson prayers, they went unheard. If you were hoping, wishing, praying for Justin Jefferson to be a New England Patriot, we got some bad news for you today. Justin Jefferson has signed a contract extension with the Minnesota Vikings, or at least he's agreed to sign a contract extension with the Vikings. 4 years, $140 million is the deal. $110 million in guarantees, $89 million in fully guaranteed money at the signing. It's a gigantic contract, reportedly the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. So a crazy contract as far as money goes for Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in football, many would argue. And now he is paid as the highest paid player in the league that does not play quarterback. Justin Jefferson, not a Patriot. Justin Jefferson remaining a Viking. All right, let's get to the Patriots stuff. Lots of new with the Patriots offense, right? When we look at the Patriots offense, we think about a new coaching staff, really a complete turnover of who was here in prior years. Alex Van Pelt is now your offensive coordinator. T.C. McCartney is your quarterback's coach. Peters and Kugler are your offensive line coaches. Hughes is your wide receiver coach. On and on and on and on. Lots of turnover on that side of the football when we talk about the staff. But it wasn't only the staff. It was also the personnel. You draft Drake Maye. You sign Jacoby Brissett. You draft Joe Milton. We can go through all the names, but we know them, right? The guys they signed at wide receiver and drafted at wide receiver, at tight end, at running back. Offensive line is going to be new. There is lots and lots and lots of new when we talk about the Patriots offense heading into 2024. And given what we saw last year from this offense, I think that's a good thing because the offense last year stunk out loud. You know it. I know it. All of us know it. That offense was brutal. But could all of this new actually be an advantage, especially when we talk about the scheme that is new? Brian Hoyer was on Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast, and he said, quote, I think, speaking of Drake Maye, I think he's in a beneficial situation because everybody who's there is learning a new system. He's not that far behind. Now, Jacoby has played in this system before, and a few other guys have, but really, they want to install it for everybody. So he's not missing out on a lot. And that might sound like a simple point, but I thought that was a fantastic point from Hoyer. One that I had not thought of just yet. This idea that everybody is starting anew, including the rookie quarterback. You are not walking, if you're Drake Maye, into an established situation. You're not playing catch up. Think about Mac Jones when he was drafted, right? Mac had to come into this offense, and they wanted to run the Josh McDaniels offense, the Earhart Perkins offense, the Charlie Weiss offense, the Bill O'Brien offense, the Patriots offense. That's what Mac Jones was going to run. So when he walked into this system, it had been established for 18, 20 years of what that offense was. And it was a lot to play catch up with because when you had Tom Brady, who was the crazy human supercomputer, he had the ability to remember volumes and volumes and volumes of material. And being in the same system for 20 years, Brady understood the very, very high levels of that offense that they could continue to build upon. So Mac was parachuted into learning that. Yes, Tom had been gone already, and you went through the Cam Newton year. We understand that. But there was still that offense, the scheme, what they wanted to run. And Mac had to learn all of that. And most of the players around Mac had known about that. Now, yes, they brought in new. They brought in Nelson Aguilar. They brought in Hunter Henry. They brought in Jonnu Smith. There was a lot of leftover, though. With Drake Maye, a lot of this is new. But a lot of it is new to everybody on this team, or at least almost everybody. And Maye is starting from square one, just like the vast majority of this football team is, especially when we talk about the offensive side of the football. And that's good for Drake Maye because he's not behind everybody else. He doesn't have this steep learning curve, right? Day one is literally day one. and he gets to work from day one with everybody else. Every skill player, when you look at this offense, every skill player outside of maybe Austin Hooper, right, who has been coached by Alex Van Pelt, has experience in this system. You could also say Kendrick Bourne kind of sort of has experience in this system because he played for Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco. But when you look at pretty much everybody else, this is new. This stuff is new. Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, all of these guys, they're learning this along with Drake Maye. It's not as if Maye is walking into the huddle and everybody around him knows every single call already, and they're looking at the rookie like, come on, man, when are you going to get this? Let's go. Let's go. Quicker, quicker, quicker. We're not going to wait for you. Everybody on this offense, Antonio Gibson, Ramondre Stevenson, they're all learning this. And when you learn something alongside people, it means something. Like, imagine if you were walking into a college class, right? You walk into a college class, and imagine that it's your first year in that class, but everybody else in that class is in their second, third, fourth year. You're trying to catch up to the curriculum. Everybody else in the class knows. Everybody knows what's being taught. Everybody is ahead of you, and you're trying to race, and you're trying to catch up with everybody else's knowledge. It is much easier to walk into that college course. You walk into that classroom. You get handed the syllabus. Remember those? Do they still hand out syllabuses? I don't know. They give you the syllabus, and you are learning with everybody else. Day one is day one. You're learning the curriculum together. You can work with people sitting next to you. You can find a group of people that you get along with in that class and work on that curriculum together. You don't have 2 or 3 people in that group kind of scratching their head, being annoyed, being frustrated because you're the guy or you're the girl who's not picking it up quick enough. It's much easier to learn when everybody is learning at the same pace, or at least trying to learn at the same pace, learning together. And that's the kind of situation that Drake Maye walks into. He's not walking into that college classroom when everybody's been working on the curriculum and working and checking boxes off the syllabus for the past 2 or 3 years. And here's another part of this that I like an awful lot. It gives the opportunity for Patriots coaches to evaluate Drake Maye along with the veterans. Coaches can now watch these guys, right? If Alex Van Pelt is coaching his scheme to most of the guys on this offense, and let's say Drake Maye is the only one that's not getting it, then you know it's a Drake Maye problem, right? Then you could say everybody else is picking this stuff up, but our rookie quarterback, our number 3 pick, he's not picking up what we're putting down. So why is that? But if Drake Maye is learning alongside everybody else with the same kind of time frame, then you feel good because you say to yourself, that guy's a rookie and he's picking up this offense as fast, if not faster, than guys that have been in the league for 4 or 5 years. So it's a really good evaluation piece to the puzzle for the coaching staff because everybody's starting on the ground floor. Again, Jacoby Brissett is somebody who's ahead in the game. Austin Hooper, ahead in the game. Maybe Kendrick Bourne, a little bit ahead of the game. But remember, Bourne physically, he's not caught up yet. He's likely going to be on the PUP to start the season. So this allows the coaching staff to look at everybody on the offense and say, all right, who's not learning quick enough? And guess what? If nobody is learning the offense efficiently and everybody is struggling to learn the offense, then we know what the problem is, don't we? It's not the players, it's the coaching. It's how the install is going. And maybe they have to slow it down on their end. But when you have everybody on this even keel, when you have everybody on this even playing field, so to speak, you're able to evaluate people equally. So is Drake Maye learning this offense as fast or faster than some of these other guys like a KJ Osborne, a veteran who's been in the league for 4 or 5 years? Is Maye catching the offensive, terminology and learning the scheme and the system as quickly as Osborne is? Is he learning it quicker than Osborne? that will give you a great idea as to how Maye is progressing from a mental standpoint with this offense. Is he behind? Is he sticking with the other guys? Or is he actually ahead of the others? I have more thoughts on this, but first I remind you the Nick Cattle Show is brought to you by Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. Kelly and I went out there to North Kingston, Rhode Island on Saturday. It was a gorgeous day on Saturday. We swung by. We saw my guy Jeff at Warzone. This place is awesome. They've got everything you want. And here's the cool thing. As we're chilling at Warzone Paintball and Airsoft, there's a young man there. He's about 15 years old. He's just learning. And it's so easy for him to just learn. It's like Drake Maye on the Warzone Paintball and Airsoft fields, learning the game, right? This young man's learning. And at Warzone, they take care of you. It's casual. It's low key. So if you are a newcomer and you're concerned, don't worry about it. They teach you everything you need. And they understand that you're just starting. They're not rushing you. They're not throwing you into some crazy tournament. They take care of you. Again, this place is gigantic, 30-plus acres of land. It's a fantastic spot. Jeff's the man. Check him out with his crew. He's got a bunch of refs. He's got a bunch of staff running around helping people. It is great. I loved swinging by there with Kelly. I plan on doing it again sooner rather than later. And this time, hopefully bring a couple friends or family to actually partake in some games. But check them out, Warzone Paintball and Airsoft, North Kingston, Rhode Island. Give them a call at 401-228-6366, 401-228-6366, and tell them the Nick Cattle Show sent you. All right, back to this idea. If you're just jumping in, Brian Hoyer, I thought, made a fantastic point on the Tom Curran Patriots Talk podcast, saying that he thinks Drake Maye is in a beneficial situation because everybody who is learning the new system is learning the new system, including Maye, and he's not that far behind. Now, of course, Jacoby played for Alex Van Pelt. He knows the system, so he's ahead. But when you look at a lot of these other guys outside of Austin Hooper and maybe Kendrick Bourne because of his time with San Francisco, you've got a lot of new people learning new things, which is good for the rookie quarterback. And it also means that this coaching staff is not going to throw crazy wrinkles at Maye because you're working on the very, very fundamentals of this offense. You're working out the kinks together. And so you're not in a situation where because everybody is ahead of you, you now have to deal with a couple of wrinkles from time to time that you did not anticipate because you're learning and everybody else is ahead. It goes back to that college classroom analogy I made. If you're in a class and everybody else is ahead of you, the professor might challenge the class in different ways, and you individually might not be ready for those challenges. The test might be a little bit harder than you're ready to deal with. But because you're learning this with everybody else, you have to deal with less of those wrinkles, less of those extreme challenges, so to speak. And depending on the professor, I don't know, for those who went to college, I don't know how many of you had to deal with certain professors. They could be a little tough at times. So this is good for Drake Maye, and it's a fantastic point made by Hoyer that I did not think about. And when we talk about evaluating Drake Maye versus some of these other guys on the offense, I think you can also look at evaluating Maye versus Brissett because Brissett knows the system. Brissett should be ahead. If we get to training camp and Maye is ahead of Brissett, I think that speaks volumes because Maye is not just surpassing somebody like a Bailey Zappi or a Joe Milton who's learning this offense for the first time. That means Drake Maye would be surpassing Brissett, a quarterback that played in this system, that has the knowledge in his back pocket. And if Maye is good enough to get past Brissett, that should say an awful lot about his ability to learn the offense, to adapt, to adjust to what he's got to adjust to, the communication, the chemistry, all of those things, in learning this scheme and learning this cadence. If he leapfrogs Brissett by the end of training camp, that is a fantastic, incredible sign for Drake Maye. And it's not because Jacoby Brissett's a top 10 quarterback. It's just because Jacoby is beginning this process with a lot more knowledge, well ahead of Maye. And if Maye can play catch up that quickly, within the first couple of months of his tenure here in New England, that's a very, very good thing because you can directly compare the quarterbacks, which is a great evaluation situation. Because if Drake Maye is behind Brissett, then you know that Drake Maye, he needs to pick up the pace a little bit depending on how far behind he is of Brissett. But if he's there, I mean, even if he's nose to nose with Brissett when you get to training camp, you got to feel really good. It means the young man's putting in the work. And for Maye himself, he gets to really go at his own pace to a point because he's learning with everybody else. He gets to tackle the mental part first. And he's not leaping into a camp season when everybody knows the offense. So now he not only has to catch up mentally, but he's got to catch up physically. It allows Drake Maye to catch up mentally, to tackle that part of the game as a rookie quarterback. Then he tackles the fundamentals, which he's been doing. And then eventually, as we talked about last week, you get to the point where his natural talent takes over. But it's a step-by-step process. All right, as I continue to blab, don't forget to give us that like. Thumbs up means an awful lot. That's how we beat that algorithm. Takes a second of your time. Doesn't cost you any money. Give us that like and subscribe. You can subscribe for free. This is not a paid membership subscription. You can subscribe for free. Trying to get to 3,500 subscribers. It's going to take us some time. We're going to get there as we continue to build this program out. So don't forget to like and subscribe and also throw a comment in. You watch a video, you like what we're talking about, throw it in there. If you don't like what we're talking about, throw your comment in. I try to look at all the comments. Friday, sometimes I'm a little bit lax because I'm going out with the wifey and it's our weekend. But I try to look at as many comments as I can. So the likes, the comments, the subscriptions, that's how we continue to survive here. Rate and review Spotify, Apple Pods. And one more thing I'll say is I've started this new podcast called Off the Cuff. It's every Friday. It's on the Patreon page. People seem to love it. It's some national sports storylines, but it's also some personal stuff mixed in. The last Off the Cuff last Friday was the second episode. I talked about my radio career, challenges I went through, getting back on 98.5 last week and how I felt that it went. So a little bit more personalized, Off the Cuff, Patreon page to go along with a lot of other exclusive content. You can check it out, $5 a month. All right. I see this quickly. Got to throw it up there. Pino, hello from Texas. What's up? How's it going, Pino? Saying hello to Texas. Appreciate any Texans listening to the show. Always a good time hearing from people that are outside of New England. Outside of the country is cool as well. I know a lot of people throw some comments in. I can't always keep track because I don't have a producer. But I always love hearing from people outside of New England and outside of the country. It's really cool. It's kind of weird, but it's cool. All right, let's jump to the Celtics here. Latest on Kristaps Porzingis as we get ready for the finals on Thursday night. By the way, what the hell? I'm tired of waiting. The NBA, we could address this. We could adjust. We didn't have to wait until June 6th for the first game. But Joe Mazzulla on Saturday said that Porzingis did everything at the practice. It was a moderate-paced practice. Joe made sure to let people know that they were going to go harder at practice yesterday than they did on Saturday. Did not see any kind of update from Joe or the team about practice yesterday, whether or not Porzingis participated, how much he participated. So we still haven't really gotten word about that. But it's good news that Kristaps was out there on Saturday and he was involved in practice. That's obviously a step forward. I would say this. I don't expect Porzingis to play 35 minutes a night in the finals, especially at 100%. I don't expect that. If Porzingis is giving these guys 35 minutes a night in the finals, that would exceed my expectations. The question to me is, can you get Porzingis to play 20 to 25 minutes for you a night? If Porzingis can give you 20 to 25 minutes a night, even at 85, 90%, it is going to help you exponentially. So that's what I'm looking at. I do not anticipate 30 minutes. I do not anticipate 35 minutes a night. Can he give you 20 to 25? And when he's out there for the 20 to 25, does he look physically normal? Is he his usual self? Or does he look a little clunky? Does he look like he's protecting the calf? That's what we have to look for. But if you get 25 minutes a night in this series from Porzingis, it really helps your chances of winning a title. And I'll tell you why in a couple minutes. The other thing we got to wonder about is rust. Will Porzingis be rusty? You know, I saw this, I think it was in an ESPN article over the weekend. But Porzingis has shot 50% from the field or better each of the prior 6 times he returned from an injury that cost him a week or more. So when you look at what Porzingis has done, when he's come back from an injury, when he's had a layoff of at least a week, if not longer, he comes back and he shoots 50% or better that first game back. He's done it every time. Each of his past 6 times he's sat out for a week or longer, that first game back, he's 50% or better. So if you go off of history, recent history, Thursday night if Porzingis plays, we should not expect too much rust. Again, going off of what he's done before this. It doesn't guarantee it. He might go out there and look like dog crap. but we got to see how it looks when he goes out there. But again, recent history would tell you he'll go out there on Thursday night and he should be shooting just fine. He should be okay. And Porzingis, he is going to have a huge impact on this finals if he plays. Huge. I don't think you can understate the impact that Porzingis will have. And I know some people disagree with me on this. Some people think that it would be almost an embarrassment of riches out there. They think, oh, he'll help them. He'll be fine. He'll be good. But they don't necessarily need Porzingis. I think they need him in this series. When you look at Dallas and their bigs, right? Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, those guys are very athletic bigs. Very athletic bigs who rim run offensively, who protect the rim defensively. And one of the things that the Celtics have had issues with, and I talked about this going back at the trading deadline, athletic bigs sometimes drive them crazy. You know, Horford is a great defender. He's great at what he does. He's now, 38 years old. Congratulations to Al. And man, do I want them to win a championship for Big Al. But Al is not overly athletic, especially not at this stage of his career. Luke Cornett is not athletic at all. They traded for Tillman, which I thought was a very good trade given what they needed at the time. But the one thing about Tillman, he's not as athletic as I thought he was going to be. And it might be the knee. And he was never a super athlete, don't get me wrong. But he's even a little bit slower than I anticipated out there, especially defensively. It might be because he's learning the defense. He's still fairly new. But that athleticism from the Dallas Bigs is going to challenge the Celtics. And their size is going to challenge the Celtics. So Porzingis, to me, is big because he can pull Lively and Gafford from the rim. The Celtics might be able to play Gafford out of this series completely. They might be able to eliminate him completely because Gafford is not nearly the playmaker with the basketball that Lively is off the pick and roll action. Gafford can finish, no doubt about that. Again, athletic, long. He can finish alley-oops, but he's not very good offensively. He doesn't have a great feel offensively as far as finding teammates and all of that off of short rolls. If you give Derek Lively an opportunity off a short roll, he's going to find a teammate in the corner for a three. Gafford doesn't really have that feel. So the Celtics, I think, with Porzingis, could play Gafford off the floor. If you've got Porzingis and Horford, you know, if you've got Porzingis and Horford as your big man rotation for this series, Gafford's not a good fit against those guys at all. I would not be surprised if you see a lot more Kleba than you know many might think. Maxey, baby, might get a shot out there to play some significant minutes. If you don't have Porzingis, now you got a problem because Lively and Gafford, they're going to eat Luke Cornett on the pick and roll situation. They're going to get to the rim and they're going to explode athletically. And Horford and Kornet don't have as much of a chance to survive those kinds of plays as Porzingis does, because Porzingis' length, 7'3", 7'4", and athleticism helps him defend certain situations. So I think Porzingis is huge in this series. And if the Celtics decide to play drop defense, Porzingis gives you an opportunity playing drop coverage to contest the three, because he's long enough to still get out there and contest, but he's also long enough and sucks up enough space to cover the roll man. So he has the ability to contest the three, say Luka and Derek Lively are running a pick and roll set. Porzingis in the drop coverage, he's long enough and athletic enough to contest a Luka three without giving up on the short roll from Lively. So that's a huge difference maker, because you don't have those easy role plays to Lively where he either goes to the rim, lays it up, or dunks it. 99% of the time it's a dunk, or he gets close to the rim, he gets into the paint, and he makes the right read, and he sprays it out to a wide open shooter. So that's why I think, Porzingis is important in this series, man. And it'll also limit Al's minutes. As much as we love Al, and as great as he's been, and as badly as all of us want Al to win a championship before he retires, you don't want Al playing 35 minutes a night. You just don't want that to happen. Now, fortunately, the Celtics have had this long layoff. Most games, aside from between games 3 and 4, you get 2 nights off in between games. So that'll help Al's legs. But you still don't want Al playing 35 minutes a night. If you can get Kristaps to play 20 to 25 and you've got Al playing 20 to 25, that's perfect. That's what you want. Al Horford at 20 to 25 minutes is going to give you much more bang for your buck than Al Horford at 35 minutes at this stage. So Porzingis not only helps the team, defensively and all of that, just from a scheme standpoint, he also helps an awful lot because he is allowing Horford to get those extra minutes on the bench. He also gives you the ability, Porzingis does, to play double big. If Porzingis is healthy, you might steal 5 to 6 minutes of a double big lineup. You might throw both Horford and Porzingis out there at the same time to challenge Minnesota up front. So that also helps. Your lineup versatility grows with Porzingis giving you 20 to 25 minutes. If he's not there, now you got Horford. You might try to mess with Kornet. I think quickly you would find out that Kornet would be a nightmare in this series because he's not going to stick with Luka at all on the perimeter, and he's not going to be able to athletically defend Lively or Gafford on those rolls. Kornet, I think, would get played off the floor quickly. So if you don't have Porzingis, I think you're looking at Tillman. Cross your fingers he could keep up athletically, which is a question. Or you could see O'Shea Brissett get a few minutes. Or you could see Tatum actually slide to the 5 in a small ball lineup when Horford is out. But Porzingis gives them so much more depth, quality depth. It's a big change. Porzingis also gives you another shooter in your top 8. The Celtics offense, as we know, it is predicated on the 3 ball. And Joe Mazzulla, big fan of the math, as we've talked about. They're going to take a lot of threes in this series. And if you have one more shooter that's available to you in Porzingis, that makes it even better because now your top 8 can shoot. Kornet, who used to shoot, just has given up shooting. Brissett can't throw the ball in the ocean. Tillman, not reliable from 3. But if you have Porzingis, now you've got your top 8. And every single one of those guys can knock a 3 down. Every single one of those guys would be classified as at least a good shooter, if not a very good shooter. Your depth of shooting with Porzingis is much tougher for Dallas to handle than it is without Porzingis. One more thing. Rim protection. Porzingis' ability to protect the rim. We've seen it time and time again. He doesn't have to necessarily block shots to impact the shot. We've seen a lot of guys, they get into the paint and Porzingis is there and he's so tall and so long and he's there at the rim that guys feel very uncomfortable even attempting a shot. Or they'll attempt a funky looking shot. They'll change their shot in the middle of it because Porzingis is all of a sudden there. Porzingis' rim protection is a huge element because there are going to be times, you can bank on it. There are going to be times in this series that both Luka and Kyrie get to the rim. And when they get to the rim, you want to make it as tough as possible for them to finish. Now, they'll make rim reads and they'll find teammates. But if Porzingis is there, you feel a lot better in shutting that opportunity down than if it's somebody else. Even Al. And Al does a good job with blocking shots from time to time, but he just doesn't have the same presence because he doesn't have the same length as Porzingis does. And you want to make it tough on Luka and Kyrie every single time they get within 5 feet of the bucket. And Porzingis makes it tougher on them than anybody else on this team. You could say Kornet, but again, Kornet athletically, he's going to be dragged out to the paint. He's not going to be able to recover as well. It's a different thing. If Kornet is there in the paint stuck, then yes, he can protect the rim. He can block shots. But Dallas, if they see Kornet, they're going to try to drag him out, just like the Celtics are going to try to drag out Lively and Gafford, get them away from the bucket, and then beat them to the hoop. Porzingis has the ability, and so does Al. They have the ability to recover. Kornet, not really, especially against two premier perimeter guys in Irving and Doncic. All right. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. All of those things, they don't cost you anything, and they take you a couple of seconds to do at most. But all of them help this program an awful lot. So like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify and Apple Pods. And if you're interested in Off the Cuff, Thunder Francis jumps in and says, Off the Cuff was excellent. Thank you. New podcast that we do on Fridays at the Patreon page. If you want to check that out, it's $5 a month, $1.25 a week. We also have an additional Boston Sports podcast every Wednesday at the Patreon as well. So you can check that out. All right, back tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp. Thanks, everybody, for joining me on this Monday. Hold on. Kyle Kirk. Kyle Kirk jumps in with a super chat. I have to honor the super chat. Thank you, Kyle, for the $10 super chat. It is much appreciated. Mavs in 6, going to be a hell of a series. Hopefully this can grab you a Monday night beer. Always love the show and breakdowns. Thank you, Kyle. So Mavs in 6. I'm not going to give my prediction until Thursday. I'm still digging in through all the different elements of this series, the particulars of the players, what the teams do well and what they don't do well. I will just say that don't be fooled by what you've seen up until this point in the playoffs. I tweeted this earlier today at Nick C Radio. Again, you can follow me at Nick C Radio up top there. I tweeted earlier today, none of it really matters. The NBA is such a matchup game. The NBA is all about matchups. And what the Celtics are going to face against Dallas is different than they faced earlier in the playoffs. And what Dallas is going to face with the Celtics is completely different than what they had to face earlier in the playoffs. Just because Dallas was really good against Minnesota doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be really good against the Celtics. Just because the Celtics were really good against, Indiana's defense doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be really good against Dallas's defense, for example. It's all about matchups. Minnesota beat Denver because Minnesota was constructed as a team to beat Denver. They were not constructed to beat a team like Dallas. And what I mean by that is Minnesota had Mike Conley trying to defend Luka and Kyrie, and that's a disaster. They did not have the perimeter defenders or even wing defenders to a point to deal with Luka and Kyrie's style of play. They could deal with Denver much easier. So matchups. That's what matters as we get into this series. Kyle, Thank you for the super chat. Now I leave. I appreciate your time. This has been the Nick Cattle Show.